I'm a commissioner on the Villa Park Community F.U.N Commission. And as hopefully the school kids knew, we had a contest to find the oldest tree in Villa Park this past summer and fall. Well, we are here in front of the oldest tree that has been nominated by Mr. Bill Meehan. Thank you. And it is 187 years old. And now we're going to have Bill Karges, our local expert on trees and all things growing, give us some information about this particular tree. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary and Leslie and the Villa Park Community F.U.N Commission for inviting me to join you today. As a self-proclaimed botanist and plant geek and a local history buff, I've been asked to tell you a little bit about this tree. I'm humbled and excited to be able to tell you the amazing story of this magnificent tree, a tale 189 years in the making. The story of this tree begins in the year 1833 when an elm tree seed sprouts right here. The land here was occupied by the friendly Potawatomi Native American tribe. They had sold their land to the U.S. government in 1833, and by 1836 most of them would be gone as the new white settlers arrived from the east, most of them coming here from New York. It's important to note that the name Potawatomi means people of the place of fire, because they would burn off the native prairie each fall, which would drive the game into the nearby forests down by Salt Creek for easier hunting in the winter. Come spring, there would be tender young pasturage for their animals. In 1833, there were only 4 white people living in what would become DuPage County: Mason Smith, Hezekiah Dunkley, that's a good name, isn't it? And Diedrich and Frederick Growy of Growy Mill fame. 1833 also marks the arrival of a man named Allinson Risley, the preemptor of this land. He traveled here from New York to stake his claim as the first owner of this parcel of prairie. So in 1833, when this tree sprouts, we have the Potawatomi tribe leaving this area as the white settlers are arriving. Today, we walk in the footsteps of these two groups. This coincidence of events raises a curious question about this tree. Did the tree sprout after one of the Potawatomi prairie burns, which would allow the seed to grow without competition? Or was the seed brought here in the pocket of Allinson Risley to be planted on his new land? Elm seeds arrived in America in 1752, but how this tree got its start here is lost to the mists of time. Not much is known about Risley, but he probably farmed his land like the rest of the early settlers, raising corn, vegetables, hogs, and sheep. He stayed here for 8 years, then sold his land to Asa and Philura Knapp in 1841. Asa was a farmer, but also served as DuPage County Commissioner from 1846 to 1848, and as York Township Supervisor in 1854. I thought all the government representatives here today would enjoy that bit of trivia. I must mention here that the old survey maps and records can be imprecise. This tree sits near the intersection of 3 landholders whose acreages all intersect at that very corner at Madison and Villa. So who actually owned this tree is up for interpretation. But the previous information I gave you on the Knapp family is the one that is probably correct, or at least we hope so. By 1843, the old dirt road a mile north of here was surveyed and laid out. It would be named St. Charles Road and would become the conduit for transporting the bounty of the farms to the Chicago markets. As the prairie was plowed and farm animals raised, this tree grew into a sturdy 10-year-old sapling in 1843. Somehow, it escaped the plow and the foraging and trampling of farm and wild animals alike. We now move ahead about 20 years when David and Sophia Charlau purchased this land in 1864. This tree is now 31 years old and has taken on its classic large trunk and arching canopy. Surely the Charlaus knew this tree intimately because their farmhouse still stands 1 short block from here at the corner of Oakland and Madison. Today, this tree and the farmhouse have known each other for something like 150 years. This tree continues to grow and mature, untouched by the busy goings-on of a successful farm in 1864. The turn of the previous century arrives, and in 1908, this area of Villa Park is subdivided as farms give way to smaller acreages. This tree is now 75 years old in 1908, and it occupies the edge of the very last lot on the southwest side of the new subdivision, which ends right here at Madison Street. Miraculously, the tree is perfectly sited, so it will not be cut down. If it was only a few feet further south, it would have to be taken out to allow the street to go in. But once again, somehow, this tree survives. I'll fast forward 30 years now to 1938, and the tree is now 105 years old. Many Villa Park residents would have appreciated its beauty in the wintertime as they went to skate at Villa Park's newly opened first public ice skating rink. This was located just south of here, where Sugar Creek Golf Course and Walmart are today. That was a boggy area, so it was a natural place to have a pond that would freeze. They warmed themselves, by the way, as a side note, in the Charlau farmhouse on the way back. By the 1950s, trees like this were at their peak of magnificence throughout the state of Illinois. The lots were laid out in the subdivision of 1908, and they had been further subdivided in the 1950s for houses to suit the post-World War II boom. Remarkably, if not unbelievably, the tree remains and survives the damage to its environment as sewers, streets, sidewalks, street lights, houses, and parkways are created within its root zone. The tree turns 125 years old in 1958 and joins many other younger elms throughout the village. Ardmore Avenue becomes well known as the Green Cathedral because the huge arching elm tree limbs form a pointed canopy over the street. But this beautiful Eden wouldn't last long. By the early 1970s, most of these majestic trees were lost to Dutch elm disease, and backyards and parkways alike resembled war zones as the huge trees are felled. 60 million elms are cut down in the U.S. alone. But some trees survived, possibly due to a rare genetic trait that fends off the effects of the dreaded disease. Once again, against all odds, this tree survives. In the most recent 25 years, the tree has seen an onslaught of challenges: air pollution, ozone, road salt, herbicides, tornadoes, extreme heat and cold, floods, droughts, all play havoc with the environment and this tree. But once again, undaunted by these new challenges, the tree survives. And so we gather here today at this majestic giant that celebrates its 189th birthday. As we look back on the long list of events that have visited this tree, we cannot help but be awed at and amazed that it is still here. This is a rare living link in history, a witness to the end of the Potawatomi Nation and the settling of the pioneers and everything that followed. This tree is a treasured sentinel of the history of this area, and we must embrace its significance and ensure it will continue to thrive to inspire generations to come. Thanks for listening and coming today to celebrate this amazing tree. I'd like to end with someone else's words. Those are the great naturalist John Muir. This is one of his most famous quotes, and it seems very fitting to end this day. When you tug at something in nature, you will find it attached to the rest of the world. And I would say that definitely would count for this tree. Thanks for listening, and thanks for inviting me to be here.
Thank you, Bill. I'd like to just say a few words in closing. That until recently, the oldest tree in the world was thought to be a bristlecone pine tree, nicknamed Methuselah, and that's in a national forest in the United States, of all places, between California and Nevada. This summer, some upstart identified a tree in Chile. The Methuselah is 4,789 years old, they've estimated. And the new one, which is a Patagonian cypress in Chile, is estimated to be 5,500 years old. So we've got a long way to go, but we've got a good start. Sadly, climate change is a serious threat to these irreplaceable treasures of trees. The trees in our oldest tree contest ranged from 34 years to our winner, Mr. Meehan, for 187 years, and many of them were over 100 years old. The Villa Park Community F.U.N. Commission really appreciates everybody that took the time to join our contest, and we also like to thank the Cable Commission for coming out and helping us film. We hope that everybody keeps their eyes open now. For next year, we'll try it again, and we'll see if we got something older than Bill said 189, 187, 189 years old. We'll give you that. So you've got some looking to do. So thank you very much, and this is the end. Thank you for joining in. This is your award. You can proudly place on your table or in your bathroom. Oldest tree, and it has everything written here. And our quote is, save a tree, save the world, and that's important. And here's a $50 gift card for joining in. That's compliments of Villa Park Community F.U.N. Commission.
Thank you so much.
So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Phil, what is the life expectancy of a tree like this? Can we even determine that?
I can't tell you that. I'd have to do research, but I would imagine 200 to 250 years would not be out of the question if they're well taken care of.
Okay.
But that's something I can't speak to. I'd have to look it up because I'm a guy of facts.
Okay. Leslie, is there any insight into how to protect this tree in the village now that it has been identified for its history? Is there any procedure to do that?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I think that would be a question that maybe would be best answered through Environmental Concerns Commission.
Okay.
And we just happen to have somebody on that commission.
Bob, go up there then. So we can get you on camera. And we're adding Bob from the Environmental Concerns Commission, the chairperson. And would you repeat what you said?
So I think that because of the significance of the tree, we should definitely let the forestry department know so that it can give some special care to the tree. I think it's worth noting, that we should certainly pass this information along to them.
Could you tell us how you found this tree?
My wife and I do a lot of walking around just for exercise. And one day we were coming up from down that way, and we just were passing by, and we noticed, actually my wife did, she noticed how large it was, and she goes, oh, what about this one? And so we kind of did a measurement on it, and we did the quick math, and it's like, wow, it's like 180 some years old. So that's really how we didn't even know it was here until we passed by.
Yeah. So you said, you kind of insinuated that you knew that there was a contest going on. Let's do a commercial for the F.U.N. Commission. How did you know to tell anybody about the tree?
My wife and I, just a little prior to when we found it, we were at one of the board meetings for Villa Park, and someone got up there and made an announcement about the contest. And so that's kind of how we know about it.
Okay. And you were there for other reasons?
Oh yes.
Somewhere down the block here.
Yes, sir.
So if I'm hearing you correctly...
Just a little bit louder, Leslie.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Brian, it was your wife that spotted the tree? So
Yes.
I'll be taking this.
Scratch this off. Yes, actually it was. That was absolutely true.
Bob.
So Mary mentioned the importance of trees to the environment and, for the urban canopy for a variety of reasons. So there is an adopt a tree program that the village has, and we still have a large, plaque on the village boardroom, and that recognizes people who get trees for their parkway.
Okay.
So
Now, Bob, to just make a distinction, that is for a new tree to be planted.
a new tree to be planted, exactly.
Not to adopt a tree of this age.
No.
I don't want to do care and maintenance on an 180-year-old anything.
New trees, exactly.
Okay. And the age was determined based upon some research you did, but also F.U.N. Commission did a measurement, correct? Could you
Yes.
tell us what that was?
Yes, specifics. It's a mathematical thing with pi, and but I do have it here. Let me
Could you
put
take
my
pi out to like
glasses
12
on.
decimal points for us?
Yeah, 3.145. I don't know. I used to know some smart kid in school that could do it to 100 or something. But basically, you have to do the diameter, and then you multiply that or divide and measure around the tree in inches. Divide the circumference, which is what that is, by pi, and you get the diameter. And then there's a chart that has a different growth rate for different kinds of trees. Some trees weren't on our list, but you could find them on the internet. And some was a little bit harder, but if you really wanted to know, you could find it. And then you multiply that by your growth factor, and that gets you an estimation of how old your tree is. Now, in the information that we went, which I believe was from Purdue University, they did have some sort of a knocking off of a little bit of age for something that's in an urban area like this that has a lot more stress than in a forested area. But to make things a little bit easier, we'll just say Villa Park's beautiful and we take care of our trees, and there's no extra stress in Villa Park.
Just curious, when's the last time someone asked to check your work?
No one. My father actually wrote math textbooks.
Wow.
I did
Impressive
not.
answer, though. And you even had a bibliography mentioning Purdue.
Did I what?
You had notes, footnotes. That's good. Never mind. Anything else, Bill, about this tree that we need to know? You said a lot of great things.
It's a last survivor, so we need to appreciate it because there's not too many of them left. Morton Arboretum has been studying why some of the elms survived.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to get a hold of them.
That was
because
an
of
interesting
current
part of your talk, yeah.
Yeah, so they said that isolated and elms that grew away from other areas of elms were more prone to survive, but there were many elms around here, so that we knew the beetles would come to this tree. But they think potentially it could have a genetic fault, which is a good fault, that when the elm beetles attack it, they basically clog the pores of the tree, the fluid channels that feed the tree, and some trees seem to fend that off and prevent themselves from dying because of this.
Yeah.
So it's one of those genetic things that happen to be definitely on the side of this tree.
Has anyone estimated or knows the height of this tree? No. We'll do the math then.
Yeah. How many stories?
That's another contest for another.
Another contest.
Part two.
There you go.
Okay.